Lucas Reed stared at the divorce papers on his desk, ink still wet, and felt nothing. No relief, no anger, just a hollow ache where hope used to live. His phone buzzed. Another email from his boss. Another late night ahead. His daughter's drawing sat crumpled in his jacket pocket, a stick figure family he couldn't bring himself to look at. He was 32 years old and already a ghost. But in 6 hours, his boss, Victoria Hale, would lock her office door, look him dead in the eye, and say the words that would shatter everything. "You're killing yourself, and I'm not going to watch it happen." If you want to see how a single father rebuilt his life from nothing, hit that like button and drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this story travels. Now, let's begin. The fluorescent lights in the McKinley and Associates office had been humming for 14 hours straight, and Lucas Reed had stopped noticing them around hour 9. His desk was an archipelago of coffee cups, some half full, some growing ecosystems he didn't want to examine, and printouts of contract revisions that all said the same thing in slightly different ways. His eyes burned, his back ached. His phone, face down beside his keyboard, had stopped vibrating an hour ago. He knew it was the babysitter. Mrs. Cho from 4B, the retired teacher who smelled like lavender and always had butterscotch candies in her purse. She'd stayed late 3 times this week already. He'd pay her extra. He always paid her extra. Lucas rubbed his face and tried to remember what day it was. Thursday. No, Friday. The divorce papers had arrived on a Friday. That had been this morning, handed to him by a courier who'd looked bored, like he was delivering takeout instead of the official end of a 7-year marriage. "Mr. Reed?" The voice cut through the office hum like a blade. Lucas's head snapped up. Victoria Hale stood in the doorway of her corner office, backlit by the softer glow of her desk lamp. She was still in her work clothes, charcoal suit, white blouse, hair pulled back in a way that looked effortless but probably wasn't. She was 41, though she moved like someone who'd never learned how to slow down, and she had the kind of presence that made junior associates check their posture when she walked past. "My office," she said. "Now." It wasn't a request. Lucas saved his document, force of habit, and stood. His legs felt like they belonged to someone else. The walk across the bullpen to her office seemed longer than usual, and he was aware of exactly 3 people still at their desks pretending not to watch. Jenkins in contracts, Marissa from compliance, someone new whose name he'd forgotten. Victoria's office smelled like expensive coffee and old books. She shut the door behind him, and he heard the lock click. That was new. "Sit," she said. He sat. She didn't go to her desk. Instead, she leaned against the front of it, arms crossed, and looked at him the way a doctor might look at an X-ray showing something terminal. "When's the last time you slept?" she asked. Lucas blinked. What? Slept. A full night. When? He genuinely couldn't remember. "I sleep." "Bullshit." Her voice was calm, clinical. "You look like a corpse. You smell like coffee and desperation. Your daughter's school called here today because your phone's been going to voicemail." His stomach dropped. "Lily? Is she okay?" "She's fine. She forgot her lunchbox. They wanted to know if you could bring it." Victoria's eyes didn't leave his face. "Your emergency contact is still listed as your ex-wife, who, according to office gossip, just finalized your divorce this morning." Lucas felt something cold spread through his chest. "That's none of your—" "You're right, it's not." She cut him off without raising her voice. "But you made it my business when you started falling asleep at your desk, when you missed 2 client meetings last week, when Jenkins found you in the bathroom at 11 p.m. looking like you were about to pass out." "I'm handling it." "No." Victoria straightened up. "You're not. You're drowning, Lucas, and you're too stubborn or too scared to grab the life preserver." He wanted to argue, wanted to tell her she was wrong, that he had everything under control, that he just needed to get through this week, this month, this quarter, but the words stuck in his throat like wet concrete. "I'm fine," he said instead, and even he didn't believe it. Victoria walked around her desk, pulled something from a drawer, and set it in front of him. A business card. Not hers. A therapist's. Dr. Sarah Chen, licensed clinical psychologist. "You're taking 2 weeks off," Victoria said. "Effective immediately. Mandatory. I don't care if you see this therapist or someone else, but you're going to talk to somebody, and you're going to sleep, and you're going to be a father to that little girl before you completely forget how." Lucas stared at the card. You can't just, I can. I'm your boss. I'm exercising my right to protect this company from a lawsuit when you collapse from exhaustion and crack your skull open on office furniture. She paused. But mostly, I'm doing this because you're a good man who's killing himself in slow motion, and I'm tired of watching it. Something in her voice made him look up. There was no pity in her expression, no condescension, just a kind of weary recognition, like she was looking at a reflection she'd once known too well. Why do you care? He asked quietly. Victoria's jaw tightened. For a moment, she looked like she might not answer. Then she sat down in the chair next to him, not behind her desk, but beside him. And when she spoke, her voice was softer than he'd ever heard it. Because 6 years ago, I was you, she said. Different details, same spiral. I worked 90-hour weeks, slept 4 hours a night. Told myself I was fine while my marriage disintegrated, and I stopped recognizing myself in mirrors. She looked at her hands. I didn't have anyone who cared enough to lock a door and tell me the truth. I had to hit rock bottom before I figured it out. And you know what rock bottom looks like, Lucas? He shook his head. It looks like waking up in a hospital because your body gave out in the middle of a deposition. It looks like divorce papers served by a man who used to love you and now looks at you like a stranger. It looks like realizing you sacrificed everything that mattered for a career that doesn't give a damn whether you live or die. She met his eyes. You're not there yet, but you will be if you don't stop. The office was silent, except for the distant hum of the HVAC system. Lucas felt something crack open inside his chest, something he'd been keeping carefully sealed since the morning the courier had handed him those papers. I don't know how to stop, he said, and his voice came out raw. I know. Victoria stood up. That's why you're not getting a choice. Clean out what you need from your desk. Go home, hug your daughter, sleep for 12 hours. Then figure out what the hell you actually want your life to look like. She walked back around her desk and pulled out a folder. This is the contact information for Dr. Chen, a sleep specialist, and a family lawyer I trust who doesn't work for sharks. Use them or don't. Your call. But you're not setting foot in this office for 2 weeks minimum. If you try, security has instructions to turn you away. Lucas took the folder with numb hands. It felt surreal, like he'd stepped into someone else's life. What about the Morrison contract, he asked, and the Feldman deposition? Already reassigned. The world will keep turning, Lucas. It always does. She sat down, pulled her laptop toward her, and her voice shifted back into business mode. You have 15 minutes before I have security escort you out. I suggest you use them. He stood, folder in hand, and made it to the door before he stopped. Victoria. She looked up. Thank you. Her expression softened just for a second. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you're on the other side of this and you can actually remember what your daughter's laugh sounds like. The apartment was dark when Lucas got home. He fumbled with his keys, dropped them once, picked them up, tried again, and finally got the door open. Mrs. Cho was asleep on the couch, her knitting abandoned in her lap. The TV played some late-night talk show on mute. Lucas set down his bag as quietly as he could. Mrs. Cho stirred, blinked awake, and gave him a tired smile. Mr. Reed, you're home early. Yeah. He glanced at the clock. 10:47 p.m. early. I'm sorry I'm late, again. Lily's sleeping. Mrs. Cho gathered her knitting, stood with the careful movements of someone whose knees hurt. She had chicken nuggets for dinner and did her reading homework. Well, most of it. She fell asleep halfway through chapter 3. Guilt, sharp and familiar, twisted in Lucas's gut. I'll pay you extra for... You always do. She patted his arm. She drew you a picture. It's on the kitchen table. Good night, Mr. Reed. She left, and the apartment felt even quieter. Lucas walked to the kitchen. The picture was there, held down by a clean coffee mug. Crayon on construction paper. A house, a tree, 2 stick figures. One big, one small. Both smiling. At the top, in Lily's careful 6-year-old handwriting, me and Daddy, no mommy. Not anymore. Lucas sat down at the table and pressed the heels of his hands against his eyes. He was so tired. Tired in a way that sleep wouldn't fix. Tired in his bones, in his blood, in the part of him that used to believe things could get better. His phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. Go to sleep, Lucas. That's an order. He almost laughed. Instead, he stood, walked to Lily's room, and eased the door open. She was a small shape under her butterfly comforter, Dark hair spread across the pillow. Her nightlight, a turtle that projected stars on the ceiling, cast soft green constellations across the walls. She'd kicked off one sock. Her stuffed rabbit, Mr. Hoppy, was tucked under her chin. Lucas sat on the edge of her bed, careful not to wake her, and just watched her breathe. In, out, steady, certain, the only thing in his life that still made sense. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry, baby girl." She didn't wake, but in her sleep she shifted closer to him, and her hand found his. He sat there for a long time, holding his daughter's hand in the dark, and let himself finally feel the weight of everything he'd been running from. Saturday morning came too bright and too loud. Lily bounded into his room at 7:15 a.m., already dressed in mismatched clothes, striped purple leggings, and a yellow shirt with a dinosaur on it, and announced that she wanted pancakes. "The kind with the blueberries inside, not on top," she clarified, bouncing on the balls of her feet. "Because on top, they fall off, and it's sad." Lucas, still half asleep, registered that his alarm hadn't gone off. Then he registered that he'd slept for 9 hours straight. Then he registered that his daughter was staring at him with huge brown eyes that looked exactly like his. "Pancakes," he repeated, "with blueberries inside." "Right." He dragged himself out of bed. His body felt strange, rested, but also like it didn't quite trust the rest, like it was waiting for the other shoe to drop. They made pancakes. Well, Lily supervised while Lucas did the actual cooking, which involved her critiquing his blueberry distribution. "But too many on that side, Daddy," and testing the batter with her finger when she thought he wasn't looking. "You're home," she said at one point, sitting on the counter and swinging her legs. "Yeah, sweetheart, I'm home." "Not just home. You're here home." Lucas flipped a pancake. "What's the difference?" Lily scrunched up her face, thinking. "Sometimes you're home, but you're not here. You're looking at your phone or your computer, and your eyes are here, but your brain is at work." She tilted her head. "Are you here today?" The spatula felt heavy in his hand. "Yeah, Lil, I'm here." "Good." She grinned, showing the gap where her front tooth used to be. "Because Mrs. Cho is nice, but she doesn't know how to make pancakes right. She makes them too small. Tiny pancakes are a crime," Lucas agreed seriously. "The worst crime." Lily nodded. "Worse than stealing." They ate breakfast at the table, a real breakfast, not cereal shoveled in while standing at the counter. Lily told him about school, about how Marcus Chen had brought a frog in a jar for show and tell, and it had escaped, and Miss Rodriguez had screamed, which was funny because Ms. Rodriguez was usually the one telling them not to scream. Lucas listened, really listened. And somewhere between the story about the frog and Lily's tangent about why purple was scientifically the best color, he felt something ease in his chest. After breakfast, Lily wanted to go to the park, the one 3 blocks away with the good swings and the jungle gym shaped like a castle. "Please?" She gave him the look, the one with the big eyes and the slight pout that he had zero defense against. "Okay," he said, "but you need to wear a jacket. It's not cold." Lily, "Fine." She stomped off to get her jacket with all the dramatic suffering of the deeply oppressed. The park was full of Saturday chaos, kids shrieking, parents chatting, someone's golden retriever chasing a frisbee with deranged enthusiasm. Lily made a beeline for the swings and demanded that Lucas push her as high as the sky, but not so high that I die. "Reasonable parameters," Lucas said and pushed. She laughed, a sound like bells, like wind chimes, like every good thing he'd ever heard. And he realized Victoria had been right. He couldn't remember the last time he'd heard Lily laugh like that. Really laugh. Not the polite kind she did when she was trying to be good. "Higher!" she yelled. "You sure?" "Higher, higher, higher!" He pushed higher. She screamed with joy. And Lucas felt something shift inside him, something that had been clenched tight for months beginning to unfurl. They stayed at the park for 2 hours. Lily played castle, recruited 3 other kids into an elaborate game that seemed to involve a dragon, Marcus Chen again, and a magic sword, a stick, and fell off the monkey bars once but popped right back up with scraped palms, and a declaration that she was totally fine, Daddy, don't worry. Lucas sat on a bench, watching her, and for the first time in longer than he could remember, he wasn't thinking about work, wasn't thinking about the divorce, wasn't thinking about anything except his daughter's joy and the autumn sun on his face. His phone buzzed. A text from his ex-wife, Jennifer. "Can we talk?" He stared at it for a long moment. Then he put the phone back in his pocket, unanswered. Not today. The next week was strange. Lucas had worked so much for so long that suddenly having time felt like being set adrift. He didn't know what to do with himself. He slept. A lot. 9, 10 hours a night, plus naps when Lily was at school. His body seemed determined to collect on every hour of sleep debt he'd accumulated. He took Lily to school and picked her up. He made dinner, actual dinner, not takeout or cereal. Spaghetti, tacos, grilled cheese and tomato soup. Nothing fancy, but Lily ate every bite and chattered the whole time, and Lucas realized how much he'd missed this. He avoided looking at his work email, avoided thinking about the office, avoided the part of his brain that kept insisting he was being lazy, that he should be doing something productive, that sitting still was the same as failing. On Wednesday, he called Dr. Chen, made an appointment for Friday, felt ridiculous the entire time. On Thursday, Lily brought home a permission slip for a field trip to the Science Museum. Parent chaperones needed. "Can you come?" she asked, looking up at him with hope and hesitation in equal measure. Lucas looked at the date. 2 weeks from now. He'd be back at work by then. Back to the late nights and early mornings and constant grind. But Victoria's voice echoed in his head. "Figure out what the hell you actually want your life to look like." "Yeah, sweetheart," he said. "I'll come." Lily's face lit up like sunrise. "Really? Really?" She hugged him so hard he almost fell off the couch, and Lucas thought, maybe for the first time, that Victoria had been right about more than just the sleep. Friday afternoon, Lucas sat in Dr. Chen's office, a small room with comfortable chairs and a bookshelf full of titles like The Body Keeps the Score and Burnout, and tried to figure out what to say. Dr. Chen was younger than he'd expected, maybe late 30s, with kind eyes and an easy manner that made the whole thing feel slightly less mortifying. "So," she said, after the initial pleasantries, "what brings you in today?" Lucas looked at his hands. "My boss made me come." "Okay." "Why'd she make you come?" "Because I'm a mess." The words came out flat. "Divorce just finalized. Single dad. I work too much, sleep too little, the usual." Dr. Chen nodded. "That sounds really hard." Something about the simplicity of it, no judgment, no fix-it advice, just acknowledgement, made Lucas's throat tight. "I don't know how to do this," he said quietly. "Be enough for my daughter, do my job, not fall apart." He paused. "I thought I was handling it, but I wasn't. I was just running." "What were you running from?" Lucas was quiet for a long time. "The fact that I failed," he said finally. "My marriage, my ex-wife, Lily. I failed all of them." "Tell me about that." And somehow he did. The words came slowly at first, then faster. He told her about Jennifer, about how they'd met in college and gotten married too young and grown into different people, about how he'd thrown himself into work to avoid dealing with the cracks in the foundation, about the custody battle, if you could call it that, when Jennifer had barely fought for more than weekends, about the guilt, the anger, the bone-deep exhaustion of doing everything alone. "I just want to be a good dad," he said, "but I don't know if I know how anymore." Dr. Chen leaned forward slightly. "Lucas, the fact that you're here, asking these questions, trying to do better, that's how. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to show up. What if showing up isn't enough?" "It will be," she said gently. "Trust me. For Lily, you being there, really there, not just physically present, that's everything." When Lucas left the appointment an hour later, he felt wrung out and raw, but also lighter, like he'd set down something heavy he hadn't realized he'd been carrying. The second week of his forced leave, Lucas started to remember what it felt like to be human. He took Lily to the library and let her pick out 10 books, even though the limit was 5. The librarian pretended not to notice. He went to the grocery store and actually cooked real meals instead of surviving on coffee and vending machine snacks. He called his sister Megan, who lived in Oregon, and who he hadn't talked to in 3 months. She yelled at him for ghosting her, then cried, then made him promise to visit for Thanksgiving. He looked at the family lawyer's contact information Victoria had given him, didn't call yet, but kept the card. And slowly, carefully, he started to feel like maybe he could breathe again. Lily noticed. She started asking him to read her bedtime stories again, something he'd stopped doing months ago because he was never home in time. They read Charlotte's Web and the Wild Robot, and a silly book about a dragon who was afraid of everything. "Daddy," she said one night, curled up against him with Mr. Hoppy tucked under her arm. "Are you sad?" Lucas's hand stilled on her hair. "Sometimes, sweetheart, yeah." "About Mommy?" "A little, but mostly I'm just tired." Lily thought about this. Mrs. Cho says being tired is different from being sleepy. Mrs. Cho's a smart lady. She says you can sleep a lot and still be tired in your heart. Lucas felt his eyes sting. "Yeah, baby, that's true." Lily snuggled closer. "I think your heart is getting less tired." "What makes you say that?" "Because you smile more now. The real kind, not the pretend kind." He kissed the top of her head. "I love you, Lil." "Love you too, Daddy." She yawned. "Even when you're heart tired." Lucas held his daughter until she fell asleep, and he thought about Victoria locking the door, about her voice when she'd said, "I was you," and he thought that maybe, just maybe, she'd saved his life. On the last Sunday before he was due to return to work, Lucas took Lily to the park again. Same park, same swings, same chaos. But this time he actually noticed it. Noticed the way the light came through the trees, the sound of kids laughing, the smell of someone grilling nearby. He was pushing Lily on the swings when he heard his name. "Lucas?" He turned. Jennifer stood there, hands in her jacket pockets, looking uncertain in a way he'd never seen before. "Hey," he said, because what else was there to say? "Can we talk?" She glanced at Lily. "Just for a minute?" Lucas looked at his daughter. "Lil, can you play on the slide for a bit?" "Okay." She jumped off the swing mid-arc, landed in the sand, and took off running. Jennifer watched her go. "She's gotten so big." "Yeah." They stood there, awkward strangers wearing the faces of people who used to love each other. "I wanted to say I'm sorry," Jennifer said finally, "for how things ended, for everything." Lucas was quiet. There had been a time when he'd wanted to hear those words so badly it hurt. Now they just felt empty. "Okay," he said, "and I was thinking maybe we could try again, not right away, but eventually, for Lily." Something in Lucas's chest twisted. "Jen, we were good once. We could be good again." "No," he said, and the word came out gentler than he expected. "We couldn't." "But we weren't good, Jen. Not at the end. Maybe not even in the middle. We were just two people who didn't know how to let go." He looked at her. "You didn't fight for custody. You barely see her. And that's your choice, and I won't keep her from you. But I'm not going to build my life around someone who already walked away." Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. "I made a mistake." "Yeah, you did. So did I." He glanced at Lily, who was now hanging upside down from the monkey bars. "But I'm done making them." "So that's it?" "That's it." She left. Lucas watched her go and waited to feel something, regret, relief, grief. But all he felt was tired, and underneath that, a strange kind of peace. Lily ran back over. "Was that Mommy?" "Yeah, sweetheart." "Is she coming to live with us again?" "No, Lil." Lily nodded solemnly. "Okay." Then she brightened. "Can we get ice cream?" Lucas laughed. "Yeah, we can get ice cream." They walked to the ice cream shop, hand in hand, and Lucas felt like he was finally walking toward something instead of running away. Monday morning, Lucas walked back into McKinley and Associates. He'd slept well, eaten breakfast, dropped Lily off at school and gotten a hug that nearly knocked him over. The office looked the same. Same fluorescent lights, same hum of activity, same smell of coffee and toner. But Lucas felt different. He stopped by Victoria's office. Her door was open, and she was on the phone, but she saw him and held up one finger. He waited. She finished the call, hung up, and looked at him. Really looked. "You look human again," she said. "Feel human again. Mostly." "Good." She leaned back in her chair. "How's the kid?" "She's good. Happy. We're good." Victoria's expression softened. "I'm glad." There was a moment of silence. Lucas shifted his weight. "Thank you," he said, "for forcing me to stop. I didn't think I needed it, but you did." "Yeah, I did." Victoria nodded. "Welcome back, Reed. Try not to burn out again in the next 2 weeks." "I'll do my best." He turned to go, then stopped. "Victoria?" "Yeah?" "If you ever need someone to lock a door and tell you the truth, I'm here." Her eyes met his, and something passed between them. Understanding, recognition, the beginning of something neither of them had words for yet. "I'll keep that in mind," she said quietly. Lucas went to his desk, opened his laptop, started going through emails. But for the first time in longer than he could remember, work felt like just work, not an escape, not a punishment, just a thing he did, not the thing he was. At lunch, he left the office, grabbed a sandwich, sat in the sun for 20 minutes and did absolutely nothing. And when he went back inside, he walked past Victoria's office and caught her eye. She gave him a small nod. He nodded back. Neither of them knew it yet, but that moment, that small, silent acknowledgement, was the beginning of everything. The next 3 weeks moved like water finding its level. Lucas settled into a rhythm that felt foreign and familiar at once. Work that ended at reasonable hours, dinners with Lily that didn't involve reheated takeout, bedtime stories that he actually stayed awake for. He wasn't perfect at it. Some nights he still woke at 3 a.m. with his heart racing, convinced he'd forgotten something crucial. Some mornings he still reached for his phone before his feet hit the floor. But he was trying, and trying felt like progress. What he didn't expect was how much Victoria noticed. She'd always been observant, came with the territory of being a senior partner, but now there was a quality to her attention that felt different. She'd catch his eye across the conference room during client meetings, ask how Lily was doing when they passed in the hallway, send him home at 6:30 when he started to slip into old habits. "Reed," she'd say, appearing at his desk like a well-dressed ghost. "It's Thursday. Doesn't Lily have that thing?" "What thing?" "The thing where you're supposed to be a present parent instead of slowly martyring yourself to billable hours." "She has soccer practice." "Then why are you still here?" He'd save his work, grab his coat, and leave. And every time he'd glance back to see Victoria still at her desk, the glow of her monitor painting her face blue in the dimming office. It started to bother him. The way she enforced boundaries for everyone else but never herself. The way she'd leave at 7 only to send emails at 11. The way her office light was always the last one burning. One Friday evening, 3 weeks after his return, Lucas found himself standing outside her office at 7:15. Everyone else had gone home. The cleaning crew hadn't arrived yet. The building had that particular emptiness that only comes when a space meant for hundreds holds just two. Victoria was reading something on her laptop, red pen in hand, making notes in the margin of a printed contract. She'd taken off her suit jacket. Her sleeves were rolled up. There was a coffee cup at her elbow that Lucas would bet money had gone cold hours ago. He knocked on the doorframe. She looked up, startled. "Reed, thought you left." "Did. Came back." He held up the folder in his hand. "Forgot the Brennan files. Lily's at a sleepover." "Ah." Victoria set down her pen. The glamorous Friday night of a single parent. "Living the dream." He hesitated. "You eat dinner?" She glanced at her coffee cup like it might contain food if she looked hard enough. "I had lunch." "That's not what I asked." "I'll grab something on the way home." "Victoria." She looked at him, and for a moment her expression was unguarded, tired in a way that went deeper than lack of sleep. "What? Come get dinner with me. There's a Thai place 2 blocks away. My treat." "Reed, you made me take time off, lectured me about self-destruction. Now you're doing the exact same thing you called me out for." He crossed his arms. "So either admit you're a hypocrite or come eat some pad thai before you pass out at your desk." Victoria stared at him. Then, impossibly, she laughed. A real laugh, not the polite professional kind. "That's quite the ultimatum." "I'm told I learned from the best." She closed her laptop. "Fine, but I'm paying for my own food." "We'll arm wrestle for the check." "You'll lose." "Probably." The Thai place was small and worn in, the kind of restaurant that had been in the same location for 30 years and saw no reason to update the decor. They got a booth in the back. Lucas ordered pad thai. Victoria got drunken noodles and summer rolls and didn't protest when he ordered an appetizer sampler to split. "So," Lucas said when the food arrived, How long have you been working 15-hour days? Victoria picked up her chopsticks. Who says I am? Your office light. It's visible from the street, I've noticed. Creepy. Observant. He took a bite of spring roll. You don't have to answer, but I figured I owed you one honest question after you ambushed me with a therapy referral. She was quiet for a moment, pushing noodles around her plate. Since always, pretty much. It's what I know how to do. What about what you want to do? Same thing. She looked up. I like my work, Lucas. I'm good at it. It's not some tragic coping mechanism. It's just who I am. Okay, but who are you when you're not at the office? Victoria's chopsticks stilled. The question hung between them like smoke. I don't know, she said finally, and the honesty in it was almost painful. I used to be someone's wife, then I wasn't, and everything else just sort of filled in the gaps. Lucas recognized that look. He'd seen it in his own mirror. You ever talk to anyone? He asked. Like, professionally? You mean like you're doing? Yeah. She smiled, small and sad. I did, for a while. After the divorce. It helped. Then I got busy and stopped going. She took a sip of water. Probably should start again. Probably. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. The restaurant filled up around them. Couples, families, a group of college kids who were definitely already drunk. Life happening in real time, messy and loud and utterly ordinary. Can I ask you something? Victoria said. Shoot. Why'd your marriage end? You don't have to answer if... No, it's okay. Lucas set down his fork. We got married too young. I was 23. She was 22. We thought love was enough. Turned out we wanted completely different lives and were too stubborn to admit it until we couldn't ignore it anymore. What did she want? Freedom, I think. The ability to pick up and go, try new things, not be tied down. She loved Lily, but motherhood felt like a cage to her. I could see it every day, how trapped she felt. He paused. And I wanted stability, roots, a family that stayed in one place. We were pulling in opposite directions and calling it a marriage. Victoria nodded slowly. My ex-husband wanted a wife who came home for dinner, who wanted kids, who'd be happy hosting dinner parties and doing the whole suburban thing. She smiled without humor. I wanted to make senior partner before 40. We never really stood a chance. You made senior partner at 38, right? 37, actually. Worth it? She considered this. At the time, I would have said yes without hesitation. Now? She shrugged. I don't know. I got what I wanted, but I'm not sure I understood the price. Lucas thought about that, about costs and wants and the distance between the two. You happy? He asked. Are you? I asked first. Victoria looked at him, really looked, and something shifted in her expression, something raw and undefended. No, she said quietly. Not really. Successful, yes. Respected, financially secure. But happy? I'm not sure I remember what that feels like. The confession sat between them like a living thing. Me neither, Lucas said. But I'm trying to figure it out. For Lily, yeah, but also for me. That's good, Victoria said. You should. You could too, you know. Could what? Figure out what happy looks like. You don't have to have all the answers right now. You just have to start asking the questions. She smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. When did you get so wise? Mandatory therapy and forced time off. Highly recommend. They finished dinner. Lucas paid while Victoria was in the bathroom, and when she came back and saw the empty check holder, she gave him a look that could have melted steel. I said I was paying for mine. You also said I'd lose the arm wrestle. Decided to sidestep the whole thing. Read. Too late. It's done. You can buy next time. The words were out before he'd thought them through. Next time. Implying this wasn't a one-off, that there would be more dinners, more conversations in restaurants where they weren't boss and employee, but just two people trying to figure their lives out. Victoria's expression flickered with something he couldn't quite read. Okay, she said. Next time. They walked back to the office together to get their cars. The October air had teeth now, winter announcing itself in the wind. Victoria pulled her jacket tighter. Thanks, she said when they reached the parking garage. For dinner. And for the amateur therapy session. Returns accepted within 30 days. She laughed. Good night, Lucas. Night, Victoria. He watched her walk to her car, a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than his annual salary, and realized with a strange jolt that he wanted to know more. Wanted to know what she did on weekends, what she read, what made her laugh that real laugh instead of the professional one. Wanted to know the person under the armor. It was a dangerous thing to want. He got in his own car and drove home, and tried not to think about the way she'd looked when she'd admitted she wasn't happy. The sleepovers became a thing. Not every week, but often enough that Lucas started to recognize the pattern. Lily would get invited to a friend's house, and he'd find himself with a Friday night that stretched out empty and strange. Most times he'd use it to catch up on sleep or chores or the growing pile of things he'd been too busy to deal with. But sometimes he'd text Victoria. Never anything heavy, just Thai place? Or that Mexican spot on Fifth? Or feel like getting actually decent coffee instead of office sludge? And she'd say yes. It became a rhythm, easy and unforced. They'd talk about work sometimes, but mostly they talked about everything else. She told him about growing up in Boston with parents who expected excellence and accepted nothing less. He told her about his sister Megan and the time they'd stolen their dad's car when they were teenagers and driven it into a ditch. She told him about the years she'd spent in London doing international corporate law and hating every second. He told her about the first time he'd held Lily and been absolutely terrified he'd break her. "You ever want kids?" he asked one night over Indian food. Victoria looked at her saag paneer. "I did, once, but the timing never worked, and then it felt too late. And then I stopped wanting it." She paused. "That's not entirely true. I stopped letting myself want it." "You're 41. That's not old. For corporate law, I'm in my prime. For childbearing, I'm apparently geriatric." She said it lightly, but Lucas heard the edge underneath. "That's bullshit." Medical term, actually. Still bullshit. He took a drink of water. "But I get it. The thing where you convince yourself you don't want something because wanting it hurts too much." "Exactly that." She met his eyes. "You ever think about having more kids?" "Sometimes. But I can barely handle one, and she's half raised already. Starting over sounds exhausting." "Fair." They sat with that for a while, the shared understanding of paths not taken and doors closed. "I think you'd be a good mom," Lucas said, "if you decided you wanted to be." Victoria's expression softened. "That's probably the nicest thing anyone's said to me in years." "Really? Really? People don't generally see me as maternal, more like terrifyingly competent." "You can be both. Tell that to literally everyone I've ever worked with." Lucas grinned. "I think you scare them because you're smarter than they are and you don't pretend otherwise." "Is that a compliment?" "Absolutely." She smiled, the real one, the one that changed her whole face. And Lucas felt something shift in his chest, something that had nothing to do with friendship and everything to do with the way her eyes caught the light. He pushed the feeling down, locked it away. She was his boss. This was dinner. That was all. But the feeling didn't go anywhere. It just sat there, patient and persistent, waiting. At work, things stayed professional. They were careful about it. No lingering looks in meetings, no inside jokes in front of colleagues, nothing that would invite speculation. Lucas knew how office gossip worked. Victoria was a senior partner. He was an associate. Any hint of impropriety would torch them both. But the care itself became its own kind of intimacy. The awareness of each other in rooms, the calibrated distance, the way they'd catch each other's eye and look away just fast enough. Jenkins from Contracts noticed anyway. "You and Hale are spending a lot of time together," he said one afternoon, appearing at Lucas's desk with the energy of someone who lived for drama. Lucas didn't look up from his screen. "We work together, Jenkins. That's kind of how jobs work. I mean, outside of work. We've had dinner a few times, as colleagues. Is there a point to this conversation? Just saying people talk. People should get hobbies." Lucas finally looked at him. "We're friends, Jenkins. She helped me through a rough patch. That's it." "If you say so." Jenkins wandered off, but Lucas could feel the weight of it. The watching, the wondering, the way information moved through an office like water through cracks. He mentioned it to Victoria that Friday over sushi. "Jenkins cornered me. Apparently we're the subject of office gossip." Victoria sighed. "Of course we are. Two people having dinner? Scandalous." "Does it bother you?" The gossip? No. I stopped caring what people thought about my personal life when I turned 30. She picked up a piece of sashimi. But I don't want to make things difficult for you. I'm a grown man, Victoria. I can handle some gossip. Can you handle it if it affects your career? Lucas set down his chopsticks. Are you saying we should stop doing this? The question came out harder than he'd intended. Victoria looked at him, something uncertain flickering across her face. No, she said. I'm asking if you're prepared for the potential consequences. Because I have power in that building, and you don't. If people start talking seriously, you're the one who'll get hurt. So we stop being friends because people can't mind their own business? I'm saying we need to be smart about it. We are being smart. We're having dinner as colleagues, as friends. There's nothing inappropriate happening. Even as he said it, Lucas knew it wasn't entirely true. There was nothing physical happening, sure, but there was something, a charge, a pull, an awareness that went beyond professional courtesy. Victoria knew it too. He could see it in her eyes. Okay, she said quietly. But Lucas, if this ever becomes a problem for you, if the talk gets too much or it starts affecting your work, I'll tell you. Promise? Promise. She nodded, but the conversation left a shadow between them. A reminder that whatever this was, it existed in complicated territory. They finished dinner. The check came. Victoria paid this time over Lucas's protests. Next time, he said. Next time, she agreed. But when next time came, something had shifted. They were more careful, more aware of the space between them, the way it could be seen and interpreted and weaponized. They still talked, still laughed, still shared the parts of themselves they didn't show anyone else. But there was a new carefulness to it, a recognition that they were walking a line. November arrived cold and gray. Lily's field trip to the Science Museum came and went. Lucas went as a chaperone and spent 4 hours watching his daughter's face light up at every exhibit. She introduced him to her friends with unmistakable pride. This is my dad. He knows about stars, and he makes really good pancakes. That night, tucking her in, she asked if he was happy. Yeah, sweetheart, I think I am. Why? Because you seem happy. Like, really happy. Not pretend happy. Lucas kissed her forehead. I'm working on it. Is it working? Yeah, Lil, I think it is. She fell asleep smiling, Mr. Hoppy tucked under one arm. Lucas went to his own room and lay in the dark, thinking about happiness, about what it looked like, what it cost, whether he was allowed to reach for it or if he'd already used up his share. His phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. You up? Yeah, can't sleep. Too much coffee. Same. Too much thinking. Dangerous habit. Tell me about it. There was a pause, then, You did good today. With Lily. That's what matters. Lucas stared at the message. She'd remembered. Not just that he had the field trip, but that it mattered to him. Thanks, he typed. She had a great time. Good. Get some sleep, Reed. You too, Hale. He fell asleep with his phone still in his hand and dreamed of someone with sharp eyes and a careful smile. The breaking point came in mid-November, sudden and without ceremony. Lucas was in a client meeting, a tense renegotiation with a company threatening to take their business elsewhere if they didn't get better terms. Victoria was leading, Lucas was there for contract support, and the clients were playing hardball. We've been loyal for 8 years, the CEO said, a man named Patterson with silver hair and an expensive watch. We expect that loyalty to be rewarded, and it has been, Victoria replied, her voice calm and unmovable. But what you're asking for would require us to operate at a loss. We're not in the business of charity. Then maybe we're not in the business of working with you. It went back and forth like that for 40 minutes, Patterson pushing, Victoria holding firm, the tension in the room thick enough to choke on. Lucas watched her work and was struck again by how good she was at this, how she never flinched, never showed weakness, never let them see her sweat. Finally, Patterson stood up. I think we're done here. Mr. Patterson, Victoria said, not standing. Walk out that door and you'll spend the next 6 months trying to find a firm that can do what we do for half the price. You won't find it. We both know you won't find it. So sit down and let's talk like adults. Patterson stared at her. Then, incredibly, he sat. They worked out a deal. Not the one Patterson wanted, but one he could live with. When he left, he actually shook Victoria's hand. You're a hard woman, Ms. Hale. I prefer fair, Mr. Patterson, but I'll take hard. After he left, Victoria slumped in her chair and let out a long breath. You okay? Lucas asked. That man is exhausting. You were incredible. She looked at him, and something in her expression caught. Was I? You know you were. It's nice to hear anyway. She stood, gathered her files. I need coffee, and possibly a stiff drink. It's 2 in the afternoon. Your point? They walked back to the office together. In the elevator, Victoria leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. You really are okay, right? Lucas asked, just tired, and wondering if this is all there is. What do you mean? She opened her eyes. I win negotiations. I close deals. I make the firm money. And then I go home to an empty apartment and do it all again the next day. And I'm starting to wonder if maybe that's not actually enough. Lucas didn't know what to say to that. The elevator doors opened and they stepped out into the office, back into their professional roles, and the moment passed. But that night, alone in his apartment with Lily asleep down the hall, Lucas couldn't stop thinking about it. About Victoria's face in that elevator, the exhaustion and the loneliness, and the question underneath, is this all there is? He picked up his phone and typed, You home? Yeah. You okay? A long pause, then, honestly? No. Want to talk about it? Not over text. My place? Lily's asleep, but we can talk quietly. Another pause. That's probably not a good idea. Why not? Because I'm tired and sad and you're kind, and I don't trust myself to keep this professional right now. Lucas stared at the message. Read it again. Felt something in his chest crack wide open. Victoria, he typed. What are we doing? The response took 5 minutes. When it came, it was just 3 words. I don't know. He called her. She answered on the second ring. Lucas, we need to talk about this, he said. Really talk. I know. Her voice was quiet, rough. But not tonight. I can't tonight. When? I don't know. Soon, I promise. Okay. He paused. For what it's worth, you're not alone in whatever this is. She was quiet for so long he thought she'd hung up. Then, that's what scares me. She did hang up then. And Lucas sat in his dark living room, phone in hand, and felt the ground shifting under everything he thought he knew. They didn't talk about it for 3 days. At work, they were scrupulously professional. Emails about cases, brief conversations in the hallway, nothing that would invite comment. But the unspoken thing between them had weight now, presence, and Lucas felt it every time they were in the same room. On Thursday, Victoria stopped by his desk at 6:30. Walk with me? She said. Lucas saved his work, grabbed his coat, and followed her out of the building. They walked 2 blocks in silence before she spoke. There's a park near here. Small one. You know it? Yeah. They walked there. It was nearly dark, the streetlights just coming on, and the park was empty except for a woman walking a dog and 2 teenagers smoking what probably wasn't tobacco. Victoria led them to a bench near a fountain that had been turned off for winter. She sat. Lucas sat beside her. The cold from the metal bench seeped through his pants. I need to tell you something, Victoria said, looking straight ahead, and I need you to let me get through it before you say anything. Okay, she took a breath. I've been married once, you know that. What you don't know is that I loved him, really loved him, and I still chose work over him every single time. Every late night, every missed dinner, every vacation I canceled, I chose the career. And I told myself it was fine because that's what ambitious people do. That's what success requires. She paused. And then he left, and I thought I'd feel something. Regret, grief, anything. But I just felt relieved, because it meant I could stop pretending I knew how to be a wife. Bolton Demnisi, Lucas stayed quiet. I haven't been close to anyone since, she continued. Not really. I have colleagues and acquaintances and people I see at firm functions, but no one who knows me. No one I've let in. She finally looked at him. And then you showed up in my office 6 months ago, looking like you were drowning, and I saw myself. The version I might have been if someone had grabbed me before I hit bottom. And I made you take time off because I couldn't stand watching you make my mistakes. Victoria, I'm not done. Her voice was gentle but firm. These dinners we've been having, they started as me checking in on you, making sure you were okay. But somewhere along the way, they became the best part of my week. The only time I feel like myself instead of senior partner Victoria Hale. She looked down at her hands. And that terrifies me, Lucas. Because I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to care about someone without destroying it. And I really don't know how to care about someone I have power over without it being completely inappropriate. The admission hung in the cold air between them. Lucas watched her profile in the dim light and felt like something had broken open in his chest. "Can I talk now?" he asked. "Yeah." "I'm falling for you," he said, and the words came out steadier than he felt. "I've been trying not to. Telling myself it's just friendship, just gratitude, just anything else. But it's not. And I think you know that." Victoria's breath caught. She didn't look at him. "I know you're my boss," Lucas continued. "I know this is complicated. I know there are 100 good reasons why this is a terrible idea. But I also know that when I'm with you, I feel less alone than I have in years. And I think maybe you feel that too." "I do," she whispered. "That's the problem." "Why is that a problem?" She finally turned to face him, and her eyes were bright with something that might have been tears. "Because I can't do this, Lucas. I can't be with you and be your boss. The power imbalance alone, it's unethical, it's potentially illegal, and it puts both our careers at risk. But especially yours." She shook her head. "I won't do that to you." "So what are we supposed to do? Just pretend we don't feel this?" "I don't know." Her voice cracked. "I don't have an answer. I've been trying to figure one out for 3 days and I keep coming up empty." Lucas wanted to touch her, wanted to take her hand, pull her close, tell her they'd figure it out together. But the space between them felt insurmountable. "I can't transfer to another firm," he said. "Not right now. Lily's school, my custody arrangement, everything's here, and I can't ask you to leave either. You built that firm. Helped build it, but yes." Victoria wrapped her arms around herself against the cold. "We're stuck. What if we just—" Lucas stopped, unsure of how to finish. "What?" "What if we just see each other, outside of work, carefully? No one has to know." Victoria looked at him like he'd suggested something obscene. "You want to have a secret relationship with your boss. I want to not give up on something before we've even tried." He leaned forward. "Victoria, I've spent the last year of my life running from things that scared me. My marriage falling apart, my daughter growing up, the fact that I was barely holding it together. And you made me stop running. You made me face it. So yeah, this is scary and complicated, but I'm done running from things just because they're hard. This isn't just hard, Lucas. This could ruin us both, or it could be exactly what we both need." She stared at him, and he could see her thinking, weighing, calculating all the risks against whatever she felt sitting here in this cold park with darkness coming on. "I can't promise you anything," she said finally. "I can't promise I know how to do this. I can't promise I won't mess it up." "I'm not asking for promises. I'm asking for a chance." Victoria closed her eyes. When she opened them, there was something raw there, something undefended. "Okay," she said. "Okay." Lucas felt something loosen in his chest. "Yeah?" "We try, carefully, privately, and if it becomes a problem, we deal with it." She nodded. Then, very carefully, she reached out and took his hand. Her fingers were cold. He laced his fingers through hers and felt the world shift slightly on its axis. They sat there until the cold became unbearable, hands clasped, not talking, just being. When they finally stood to leave, Victoria turned to him. "This is probably a mistake," she said. "Probably. But I'm tired of being lonely." "Me too." She kissed him then, quick and soft, her lips cold against his, over almost before it began. Then she pulled back and looked at him like she was waiting for the sky to fall. It didn't. The park stayed exactly as it was, dark and cold and empty. Just the two of them, and a decision that felt both inevitable and impossible. "I should go," Victoria said. "Yeah. I'll see you tomorrow." "At work." "At work," Lucas agreed. She walked away, and he watched her go, and felt like he'd just stepped off a cliff with no idea if there was water or rocks at the bottom. The next weeks were an exercise in careful choreography. At work, they maintained absolute professionalism. No lingering glances, no private jokes, nothing that would give them away. Victoria was, if anything, slightly harder on Lucas in meetings, compensating, he realized, for what they were doing outside the office. But outside, when they could steal time together, it was different. They'd meet at restaurants across town where no one from the firm would see them, take walks in parks where the chances of running into colleagues were slim. Once, Victoria came to his apartment late at night after Lily was asleep, and they sat in his kitchen drinking tea and talking until 2 a.m. about everything and nothing. "Tell me something nobody knows," Lucas said that night. Victoria thought about it. "I wanted to be a painter when I was young, before law school. I was actually pretty good." "What happened?" "My father said art was for people who didn't mind being poor, that I was too smart to waste my life on something impractical." She smiled without humor. I believed him. "You ever paint anymore?" "No, don't even know if I'd remember how." She looked at him. "Your turn. Tell me something nobody knows." Lucas considered. "I almost didn't fight for custody of Lily. When Jennifer first left, she wanted full custody, and I thought maybe that was better. That Lily would be better off with her mom than with a dad who worked all the time and barely kept it together." He swallowed. "It was my sister who talked me out of it, who told me I'd regret it for the rest of my life if I gave up without trying." "I'm glad she did." "Me too. Most days." He paused. "Some days I still wonder if Lily wouldn't be happier with someone more stable, someone who has their life figured out." Victoria reached across the table and took his hand. "Lucas, you're a good father. I've seen how Lily looks at you, like you hung the moon. Don't doubt that. You've never even met her." "I know, but I see it in you. The way you talk about her, the way you rearrange your whole life to make sure she's okay. That's not someone who's failing. That's someone who loves his kid more than anything." Something in Lucas's chest went tight. "Thank you. It's just the truth." They sat there, hands linked across his kitchen table, and Lucas thought about all the things he wanted to say but couldn't quite find words for. About how she made him feel less broken, how being around her was like finally being able to breathe after holding his breath for months, how he was falling harder than he'd meant to, and it scared the hell out of him. Instead he said, "You should probably go. It's late." Victoria checked her watch. 2:15. "Yeah, I should." He walked her to the door. She turned before leaving, and the look on her face was complicated, want and fear and something softer underneath. "Lucas, I know." She kissed him goodnight, longer this time, her hand on his chest, and when she pulled away they were both breathing harder. "Be careful tomorrow," she said. "At work." "Always am." "I mean it. Jenkins has been watching us." "I know. I'll handle it." She left. Lucas locked the door behind her and leaned against it, heart still racing, and wondered how long they could keep this up before something broke. The answer came sooner than he expected. 2 weeks later, on a Friday afternoon, Lucas was called into a meeting with the firm's managing partner, Robert Chen. Not Victoria's boss, she was senior partner, top of the food chain in their division, but the man who oversaw operations for the entire firm. Lucas's stomach dropped the moment he got the email. Managing partners didn't request meetings with mid-level associates unless something was wrong. He went to Victoria's office first. "Did you get a meeting request from Chen?" he asked. She looked up from her computer and he could see the tension in her shoulders. 20 minutes ago, 3 p.m. "Same. Do you know what it's about?" "No, but it's not good." She stood up, closed her door. "Lucas, if someone said something, we've been careful. Not careful enough if Chen wants to talk to both of us." She pressed her fingers to her temples. "We need to prepare for the possibility that this is about us." "What do we say?" "The truth. That we're friends, we've had dinner a few times, and there's nothing inappropriate about our professional relationship." She met his eyes. "We deny anything romantic, no matter what they ask." "You want to lie." "I want to protect your career." Her voice was sharp. "Mine can survive this. Yours can't. So, yes, we lie." Lucas wanted to argue but couldn't find the ground to stand on. She was right. If this came out, she'd weather the storm. He'd be finished. The meeting was in Chen's office, which was twice the size of Victoria's, and decorated with the kind of expensive art that Lucas couldn't identify but assumed cost more than his car. Chen himself was in his early 60s, silver-haired, with the kind of presence that came from 40 years of making people do what he wanted. He didn't offer them seats. I'll make this brief, Chen said. It's come to my attention that the two of you have been spending significant time together outside of work, multiple dinners, late-night conversations, etc. Victoria's face was perfectly neutral. Robert, if this is about the Patterson negotiation, it's not about the negotiation, it's about perception. He looked between them. You're a senior partner, Victoria. He's an associate in your division. The power dynamic alone makes any personal relationship completely inappropriate. You know this. There is no personal relationship, Victoria said smoothly. Lucas went through a difficult divorce. I offered some mentorship and support. We've had dinner a handful of times as colleagues, that's all. Chen turned to Lucas. Is that true, Mr. Reed? Every instinct screamed at Lucas to tell the truth, but he looked at Victoria's carefully blank face and thought about Lily, about custody arrangements and mortgage payments and everything that depended on him keeping this job. Yes, sir, he said. Victoria's been a mentor, nothing more. Chen studied them both. Lucas felt like he was being x-rayed. I want to believe you, Chen said finally. I truly do. Victoria, you're one of the best attorneys this firm has ever had. Lucas, your work has been exemplary, but I can't ignore multiple reports of inappropriate closeness. So here's what's going to happen. He sat on the edge of his desk. Lucas, you're being transferred to the corporate division, effective Monday. You'll report to Sarah Winters instead of Victoria. You'll have no professional contact with her beyond what's absolutely necessary for firm business. The room felt airless. Lucas heard Victoria take a sharp breath. Robert, she started, that's not... It's already done. HR has the paperwork. Chen's voice was firm, but not unkind. This is me being generous, Victoria. I could make this much worse for both of you. I'm choosing not to, but the transfer is non-negotiable. And if I refuse, Lucas asked, then you're terminated for cause. And good luck explaining that in your next interview. Chen stood. I don't think you're having an affair, but I think you could be, and in this firm, the appearance of impropriety is as damaging as the real thing. This solves the problem. He looked at Victoria. Unless you'd like to challenge this decision through official channels, file a complaint maybe. It was a trap. Filing a complaint would mean going on record, making their relationship public, inviting exactly the scrutiny they'd been trying to avoid. Victoria's jaw was tight. No complaint. Good. Then we're done here. Chen walked to his door and opened it. I trust this won't be an issue going forward. They left. In the elevator, neither of them spoke. Lucas felt numb, hollowed out. When they reached Victoria's floor, she got off without looking at him. He rode down to his desk alone and sat there staring at nothing until his computer screen went dark. His phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. My place. Tonight. Please. He texted back. What time? 8. I'll send you the address. Lucas deleted both messages and went back to staring at his screen. Around him, the office hummed with normal Friday afternoon energy. No one knew his career had just been rearranged like furniture in a room. Victoria's apartment was in a high-rise downtown, all glass and steel and expensive views. Lucas had never been there before. When she opened the door, she'd changed out of her work clothes into jeans and a sweater, and she looked smaller somehow, less armored. Come in, she said. The apartment was beautiful and impersonal. Tasteful furniture, abstract art, everything perfectly arranged and nothing that told you who actually lived there. It looked like a hotel suite, Lucas thought, like a place designed to be admired, not lived in. Victoria handed him a glass of wine. Sit, please. He sat on her couch. She sat next to him, close enough to touch, but not touching. I'm sorry, she said. For what? For putting you in this position, for not being more careful, for... Her voice broke slightly. For caring about you when I should have known better. Victoria, I mean it, Lucas. This is my fault. I'm the one with power here. I should have stopped this before it started. Lucas set down his wine. You think I didn't have a choice? I'm a grown man, Victoria. I knew the risks. You shouldn't have had to take them. Maybe not. But I did anyway. He turned to face her. And I don't regret it. You should. You just got transferred because of me. I got transferred because someone saw us having dinner and decided to make it their business. That's not your fault. She looked at him, and her eyes were red-rimmed. I can't do this to you. I can't keep being the reason your life gets complicated. Something cold spread through Lucas's chest. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe we should stop before it gets worse. Stop. The word came out flat. Just like that. Lucas, no. He stood up. No, you don't get to make that call unilaterally. You don't get to decide what I can and can't handle. I'm trying to protect you. I don't need protecting. His voice rose. I need you to stop making decisions about us without asking me what I want. Victoria stood too. What you want doesn't matter if it destroys your career. You have a daughter to think about, Lucas. You can't afford to lose this job. You think I don't know that? You think I haven't thought about Lily every single day of this? He ran his hands through his hair. But I've also thought about what kind of example I'm setting for her. Whether I want her to grow up thinking you only get to be happy if it's convenient, if it doesn't make anyone uncomfortable. This isn't about convenience, isn't it? Chen transferred me, but we can still see each other. We can still do this. It's just harder now, more complicated. And you want to quit before we've even tried. Victoria's face crumpled. I don't know how to try, Lucas. I don't know how to be in a relationship without destroying it. And I can't watch myself ruin something with you. I can't. Lucas stopped, looked at her, really looked, and saw past the fear to what was underneath. She wasn't protecting him. She was protecting herself. From the possibility of failure, of loss, of feeling things she'd spent years learning not to feel. He sat back down. Gentler now, he said. Come here. She hesitated, then sat beside him. He took her hand. I'm scared too, he said. I'm terrified, actually, of messing this up, of hurting you, of making another mistake that costs me everything. But you know what scares me more? What? Never trying. Spending the rest of my life wondering what we could have been if we'd just had the guts to find out. Victoria's thumb traced circles on his hand. What if we fail? Then we fail. But at least we'll know we tried. She leaned her head on his shoulder, and he felt her breathing slow. They sat there in her beautiful, sterile apartment as the city lights came on outside her windows. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. Neither do I. But we can figure it out together. That's terrifying. Yeah, it really is. She turned her face up to his, and he kissed her, slow and deep, his hand in her hair, and when they finally broke apart, they were both shaking. Stay, she said, please, just for tonight. Okay. They moved to her bedroom. Nothing happened beyond holding each other, both of them too raw, too vulnerable for anything else. But lying there in the dark with Victoria's head on his chest, Lucas felt more certain than he had in months. This thing between them, it was messy and complicated and potentially career-ending, but it was also real. And he was done running from real just because it was hard. Victoria fell asleep first. Lucas stayed awake, listening to her breathe, and made a decision. Whatever came next, whatever they had to face, whatever they had to give up, he was done being careful, done minimizing what he wanted because someone else might disapprove. He was choosing this, choosing her, and if that meant his life got harder, then so be it. He'd survived worse. Lucas woke to unfamiliar light coming through unfamiliar windows. For a disorienting moment, he didn't know where he was, and then he felt Victoria's weight against his side and remembered. Her apartment. Her bed. The decision they'd made to stop running. She was still asleep, her face softer than he'd ever seen it, and Lucas stayed very still so he wouldn't wake her. His phone on the nightstand said 6:47 a.m., Saturday morning. He had to get home before Lily woke up. Mrs. Cho had stayed over, but he didn't want his daughter asking questions he wasn't ready to answer. He slipped out of bed carefully. Victoria stirred but didn't wake. He found his clothes, got dressed in her bathroom, and left a note on her kitchen counter. Had to get home. Call me when you wake up. The drive back to his apartment felt surreal, like he'd crossed some invisible line in the night and couldn't quite find his way back to the person he'd been before. Mrs. Cho was making coffee when he came in. Mr. Reed, you're up early. Couldn't sleep. Went for a drive. The lie came easier than it should have. Lily's still sleeping. I'll head out once she's up and fed. Thank you. Really. I don't know what I'd do without you. Mrs. Cho patted his arm. You'd figure it out. You always do. After she left, Lucas made pancakes and waited for Lily to wake up. When she did, tumbling into the kitchen with bedhead and mismatched pajamas, She climbed into his lap and demanded he tell her a story about dragons. What kind of dragons? He asked. The nice kind, that help people instead of eating them. So he made up a story about a dragon who was afraid of fire and learned to breathe ice instead. And Lily listened with her head on his shoulder, and Lucas thought about how much harder this would all be if Victoria became a real part of his life. How he'd have to explain it to his daughter, navigate the complexity, hope that a 6-year-old could understand why Daddy's friend was more than a friend. His phone buzzed. Victoria. You left. Had to get back before Lily woke up. I understand. Can we talk later? Yeah, call me this afternoon? Okay. Lily squirmed in his lap. Daddy, you're not listening. Sorry, sweetheart. What'd you say? I said the ice dragon should have a name. What should we call her? Lily thought about it very seriously. Crystal. Because ice is like crystals. Crystal it is. They spent the day together. Park, library, groceries, all the normal weekend rhythms. But Lucas felt distracted, his mind half somewhere else. When Victoria called at 3, he stepped into his bedroom and closed the door. Hey, he said. Hey. Her voice was quieter than usual. How are you? Good. Confused. Not sure what happens now. Me neither. He heard her moving, maybe pacing. Lucas, last night, what I said about stopping. You changed your mind? No, I mean, yes. I don't want to stop. She paused. But I've been thinking about what this actually looks like. We can't keep sneaking around. It's not sustainable. So what do you want to do? I don't know. That's the problem. She sounded frustrated. Every option is terrible. We hide it and live in constant fear of being caught. We go public and destroy both our careers. We actually stop and spend the rest of our lives wondering what if. Lucas sat on the edge of his bed. There has to be another way. If there is, I haven't found it. She was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry. I know I'm not helping. I just feel stuck. We'll figure it out, Lucas said with more confidence than he felt. We just need time to think. Yeah, time. She didn't sound convinced. I should let you go. Be with Lily. Victoria, I'll see you Monday, at work. She hung up before he could respond. Lucas stared at his phone and felt the weight of everything they hadn't said pressing down on him. Monday came too fast. Lucas reported to the corporate division and met his new supervisor, Sarah Winters, a sharp woman in her mid-40s who greeted him with a handshake and a stack of files that needed reviewing by end of week. The work was similar to what he'd been doing, but everything else felt wrong. Different floor, different colleagues, different rhythms. He saw Victoria twice that day, once in the elevator, where they nodded politely and said nothing. Once in the hallway, where she was talking to another partner and didn't even look his way. Both times felt like swallowing glass. That night she texted, "This is harder than I thought it would be." Yeah. I hate not being able to talk to you. Same. Can you get away this weekend? Maybe Saturday night. Lucas thought about it. Lily had been asking to have her friend Emma over for a sleepover. If he said yes, that would give him Saturday evening free. I think so. I'll let you know. Okay. I miss you. The words sat on his screen like a confession. Lucas typed back, I miss you too. It became a pattern. Stolen weekends when Lucas could arrange childcare. Careful texts that never said anything too specific in case someone saw. Quick phone calls from parking lots and closed bathrooms and anywhere they wouldn't be overheard. They were together, but not together. Close, but impossibly far apart. And the strain of it started to show. Lucas found himself snapping at Lily over nothing. Spilled juice, forgotten homework, the normal chaos of raising a 6-year-old. He apologized every time, hated himself a little more each time, but couldn't seem to stop. Victoria threw herself into work with renewed intensity. Lucas heard through office gossip that she was in the office until midnight most nights, that she'd taken on 3 new cases when she was already overloaded, that she'd screamed at an associate who missed a filing deadline. They managed 2 full weekends together in December. The first one, Victoria came to his apartment while Lily was at Jennifer's. They ordered Chinese food and watched a movie, and barely made it through the opening credits before they were in his bed, desperate and urgent, and trying to fit a week's worth of missing each other into a few stolen hours. After, lying tangled together, Victoria traced patterns on his chest. This isn't enough, she said quietly. I know. I want to wake up next to you, have breakfast, do normal things that normal couples do. We're not exactly normal. No, we're really not. She propped herself up on one elbow. Lucas, we need to make a decision. We can't keep living like this. What kind of decision? Whether we're actually doing this or whether we're just prolonging the inevitable. Lucas felt cold despite the warmth of her skin against his. You want to end it? I want to be realistic. Look at us. We're both miserable. You're barely holding it together with Lily. I'm working myself to death to avoid feeling anything. This isn't sustainable. So we just give up? I'm not saying that. I'm saying we need to figure out what we're willing to sacrifice. Because something has to give, Lucas. We can't have everything. He knew she was right, hated that she was right. What do you want to sacrifice? Victoria was quiet for a long time. I don't know, she said finally. That's what scares me. The second weekend, they went to a cabin 2 hours outside the city. Victoria's idea, somewhere they definitely wouldn't run into anyone from work. It should have been romantic, should have been the break they needed. Instead, they spent half of Saturday arguing. You're not hearing me, Victoria said, pacing the small living room. I can't just quit my job, Lucas. I've spent 20 years building that career. I'm not asking you to quit. I'm asking you to consider options. What options? Transfer to another firm? Start over somewhere else? I'm 41 years old, not 25. I don't have time to rebuild. But I'm supposed to? You're 32. You have time. Lucas stood up. So, because I'm younger, my career matters less? Is that what you're saying? That's not... She stopped, pressed her fingers to her temples. I'm saying we need to be practical. One of us has to make a move. And it makes more sense for it to be you. Except I can't move. Lily's school is here, her friends, Jennifer's here, and the custody arrangement. I can't just pick up and leave the state. I'm not talking about leaving the state, just finding a position at another firm in the city. Which would mean starting over, taking a pay cut, explaining in every interview why I left McKinley. Lucas shook his head. You don't think that raises questions? Everything raises questions, Victoria's voice rose. That's the whole problem, Lucas. There is no clean answer here. Someone has to give something up, and we're both too scared to say who. The silence that followed was thick and ugly. Maybe you're right, Lucas said finally. Maybe we should just end this before we destroy each other. Victoria's face went pale. You don't mean that. Don't I? We've been together 4 months and all we do is hide and argue and make each other miserable. What's the point? The point is that I love you. The words burst out of her like they'd been held back too long. The point is that for the first time in years I feel something other than empty, and I don't want to give that up. Lucas stared at her. She stared back, breathing hard, looking as shocked as he felt. You love me, he said. Yes, I love you. I'm in love with you, and it's terrifying, and I don't know what to do about it. He crossed the room and pulled her into his arms. She came willingly, buried her face in his shoulder, and he felt her shaking. I love you too, he said into her hair. I'm sorry. I didn't mean what I said. I don't know how to fix this. Neither do I. They held each other in the middle of the cabin with afternoon light coming through the windows, and Lucas felt like they were standing at the edge of something. A cliff, maybe, or a chasm. One wrong step and they'd both fall. That night they didn't fight. They made dinner together, drank wine, talked about anything except the impossible situation they were in. When they went to bed, Victoria curled against him and said, I don't want to lose you. You won't. Promise? He couldn't promise that. They both knew he couldn't, but he said it anyway. I promise. By January, something had shifted. They stopped talking about the future and focused on the present, stopped trying to solve the unsolvable, and just took what time they could get. It wasn't healthy, and they both knew it, but it was easier than facing the truth. Lucas's work performance started to slip. Nothing dramatic, just small things. Missed details, deadlines that came closer than they should have. Sarah Winters called him into her office after he filed a contract with a date error. Lucas, is everything okay? Yeah, just distracted. Won't happen again. See that it doesn't. You're good at this job, but good isn't enough if you can't focus. She studied him. If there's something going on, personal issues, family stuff, you can tell me. We have resources. I'm fine. Really. But he wasn't fine. He was exhausted from sneaking around, sick of lying, tired of feeling like he was failing at everything that mattered. He snapped at Lily more often, forgot to sign permission slips, showed up late to pick her up from school twice in 1 week. The second time, Lily's teacher pulled him aside. "Mr. Reed, I wanted to check in. Lily seems a bit off lately, more withdrawn. I just wanted to make sure everything's okay at home." Lucas felt gut-punched. Did she say something? Not directly, but she's not herself. I thought you should know. That night, after dinner, Lucas sat down with Lily. "Hey, sweetheart, can we talk?" She looked up from her drawing. "Okay." "Your teacher said you've been quiet at school. Is something bothering you?" Lily shrugged. "I don't know." "You can tell me, whatever it is." She was quiet for a long moment, coloring carefully. Then, "Are you going away?" Lucas's heart stopped. "What? No. Why would you think that?" "Because you're sad a lot. And sometimes you're not here even when you're here, like how it was before you stopped working so much." She looked at him with those big brown eyes. "I thought maybe you were leaving like Mommy did." Lucas pulled her into his lap, holding her tight. "Lily, baby, I'm not going anywhere. I promise. I'm not leaving you, ever." "But you're sad." "Yeah, I am a little sad, but that's not because of you. You make me happy, sweetheart. You're the best thing in my whole life." "Then why are you sad?" How could he explain this to a 6-year-old? How could he tell her that he'd fallen in love with someone but couldn't be with her, and the hiding and the sneaking and the impossible choices were eating him alive? "Grown-up stuff," he said finally, "but I promise I'm working on it, and I promise you're not losing me." She hugged him tighter. "Okay, Daddy." That night, after Lily was asleep, Lucas sat in the dark and admitted what he'd been avoiding for weeks. This couldn't continue. He was hurting his daughter, hurting himself. Probably hurting Victoria too, though she'd never admit it. Something had to change. He called her. She answered on the first ring. "Hey," she said. "I was just thinking about you. We need to talk, really talk." Her voice shifted. "Okay. When? Tomorrow night? Can you come here after Lily's asleep?" "Yeah, Lucas, what's wrong?" "Everything. Nothing. I don't know." He rubbed his face. We need to make a decision, a real one, because what we're doing isn't working." Victoria was quiet for a beat. "I know." "So we figure it out tomorrow. No more avoiding it." "Okay?" She sounded scared. "I'll be there at 9. She showed up at 8:45, looking as tired as Lucas felt. They sat on his couch with cups of tea neither of them drank, and for a long moment neither spoke. Finally, Victoria said, "You want to end this?" "No, but I can't keep doing this. Lily's teacher said she's been withdrawn. She asked me tonight if I was leaving her." Lucas's voice cracked. "She's 6 years old and she thinks I'm going to abandon her because I've been so distracted and absent." Victoria's face crumpled. "Lucas, I love you. I need you to know that, but I can't do this at her expense. I won't." "I know, you shouldn't." She set down her tea. "So what do we do?" "I don't know. You tell me, because I'm out of ideas." Victoria stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the street. When she turned back, her expression was different, resolved, almost calm. "I'll quit," she said. Lucas blinked. "What?" "I'll resign from McKinley, remove the power imbalance. Then we can be together without destroying your career." "Victoria, you can't." "Yes, I can. I've been thinking about it for weeks, maybe longer." She came back to the couch, sat facing him. "I told you I helped build that firm, and I did. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being a career and started being an excuse not to have a life, not to want things, not to let anyone close enough to hurt me." She took his hands. "I don't want to be that person anymore. I don't want to wake up at 50 and realize I spent my whole life married to a job that doesn't love me back. But your work will still be there. I can practice law anywhere, Lucas. I don't need McKinley, but I need you. And I need to be able to look at myself in the mirror and know I chose something real over something safe." Lucas felt like he couldn't breathe. "You do that? Really?" "I'd do that. I want to do that." She smiled, and it was the first real smile he'd seen from her in weeks. "I'm terrified, but I want to do it." "What about starting over? You said—" "I said I was 41 and didn't have time to rebuild. But that was fear talking. Truth is, I have plenty of time, and maybe starting over is exactly what I need. Lucas pulled her close, buried his face in her hair. You're sure? I'm sure. She pulled back to look at him. I'll give my notice next week. Stay on for 2 months to transition my cases. By March, I'll be free. And then what? Then we figure it out. Together. Like normal people who are in love and want to build a life. We're not exactly normal people. No, but maybe we can be. She kissed him, soft and sure. Maybe we can be. Lucas held her and felt something in his chest unfurl. Hope, maybe, or just the simple relief of not having to hide anymore, of choosing something because it mattered, not because it was easy. I love you, he said. I love you too. She settled against him. We're really doing this. Yeah, we really are. Outside, the city hummed along, oblivious. Inside, 2 people who'd spent too long running from what they wanted finally stopped running. It wasn't perfect. It was messy and complicated and would probably get harder before it got easier, but it was real. And real, Lucas thought, was worth fighting for. Victoria gave her notice on a Tuesday morning. Lucas wasn't there to see it, but she told him about it later that night, how she'd walked into Robert Chen's office with her resignation letter already drafted, how he'd tried to talk her out of it for 20 minutes, how she'd stood firm and said no, this was her decision, and it wasn't up for negotiation. How'd he take it? Lucas asked. They were in his apartment, Lily asleep down the hall, speaking in the low voices of people who'd learned to have important conversations quietly. Not well. He asked if this was about you. Victoria pulled her knees up to her chest. I said no, said I needed a change, wanted to explore other options, all the professional nonsense you're supposed to say. I don't think he believed me. Does it matter? Not anymore. She smiled, but it was shaky around the edges. I have 8 weeks left. Then I'm unemployed for the first time since law school. Lucas heard the fear under her words. You're allowed to be scared. I'm terrified. I woke up at 4 this morning convinced I'd made a huge mistake. She looked at him. Then I remembered why I did it, and the fear got smaller. What if the fear gets bigger? Then I deal with it. With you. She reached for his hand. That's how this works, right? We deal with things together? That's how it's supposed to work. They sat in the quiet of his living room, and Lucas thought about all the ways their lives were about to change. How in 2 months they wouldn't have to hide anymore. How they could go to dinner without checking over their shoulders. Hold hands in public. Be a couple instead of a secret. It should have felt like freedom. Mostly it felt like standing at the edge of something vast and unknown. The next few weeks were strange. At work, word spread quickly that Victoria was leaving. The rumors ran wild. Some said she'd been pushed out. Others claimed she'd gotten a better offer. A few whispered about inappropriate conduct, though no one could say with whom. Lucas kept his head down and said nothing when people asked if he knew anything. But the hardest part was watching Victoria dismantle 20 years of her life. She transferred cases, trained her replacement, packed up her office in careful increments. Lucas would see boxes stacked outside her door when he passed on his way to meetings. Once, he caught her standing in her empty office just looking at the space, and the expression on her face was so lost he almost broke protocol to go to her. He didn't. They were still being careful. Victoria came to his apartment most nights now. Lily was usually asleep by the time she arrived, and they'd sit on the couch and Victoria would tell him about her day, the cases she was handing off, the associates who kept asking why she was leaving, the managing partners who acted like she was personally betraying them. Morrison asked if I was dying, she said one night. Actually asked if I had a terminal illness. Couldn't fathom any other reason someone would walk away. What'd you tell him? That I wasn't dying, just living differently. She leaned her head on Lucas's shoulder. He looked at me like I was speaking another language. Maybe you were. Maybe. They didn't talk much about what came after. Victoria had some money saved, enough to take time before jumping into another position. She'd already gotten 3 offers from other firms, her reputation preceded her, but she was dragging her feet on committing. What are you waiting for? Lucas asked. I don't know. The right fit, I guess. Or maybe I'm just not ready to jump back into the same life at a different address. She turned to look at him. Is that crazy? No, it's human. I've spent 2 decades being a lawyer. I'm not sure I know who I am without it. Lucas understood that more than she knew. The version of himself that had existed before the divorce, before the breakdown, before Victoria locked her office door and told him hard truths. That person was gone, and the person he was becoming felt unfamiliar, like trying on clothes that didn't quite fit yet. "You'll figure it out," he said. "You sound confident." "I'm not, but I'm hopeful." She kissed him then, slow and deep, and when she pulled back, her eyes were wet. "What's wrong?" Lucas asked. "Nothing. Everything. I'm happy and scared, and I don't know how to hold both things at once." "You don't have to choose. You can be both." "That's very evolved of you. I have a good therapist." She laughed, and the sound of it eased something in Lucas's chest. They were going to be okay. Maybe not right away, maybe not perfectly, but okay. The weekend before Victoria's last week at McKinley, Lucas decided it was time. He couldn't keep her hidden from Lily forever, and if they were really doing this, building a life together, his daughter needed to be part of the conversation. He called Victoria on Friday night after Lily was in bed. "I want you to meet her," he said without preamble. Silence. Then, "Lily?" "Yeah. Tomorrow if you're free. Nothing formal, just come to the park with us. Let her get used to you." "Lucas, are you sure? She's 6. This might be too much." "It might be, but I can't keep living 2 separate lives. And if this is going to work, she needs to know you exist." He paused. "I'm not asking you to be her mother. Just be my friend for now, until we figure out how to explain the rest." Victoria was quiet for so long, Lucas thought she might say no. Then, "Okay. What time?" They met at the park at 11. Lily saw Lucas first and came running, then stopped short when she noticed the woman standing next to him. "Hi, sweetheart," Lucas said, crouching down. "There's someone I want you to meet. This is my friend Victoria." Victoria knelt to Lily's level, and Lucas watched something shift in her expression, nervousness giving way to something genuine. "Hi, Lily," she said. "Your dad's told me a lot about you." Lily studied her with the intense scrutiny only children can manage. "Are you his boss?" "I used to be. Now we just work in the same building." "Oh." Lily looked at Lucas. "Can we go on the swings?" "Sure, baby." They walked to the swings, Lily running ahead, and Victoria fell into step beside Lucas. "That went okay, right?" she whispered. "She didn't run away screaming, so I'd call it a win." Victoria pushed Lily on the swings while Lucas watched. She was awkward at first, pushing too hard, then too soft, clearly unused to the mechanics of playground equipment. But Lily was patient, giving instructions between bouts of laughter, and gradually Victoria found the rhythm. After the swings, they played on the jungle gym. Lily declared herself a princess trapped in a tower, and Victoria, with absolutely no hesitation, became the dragon guarding her. Lucas watched this accomplished attorney crawl around on playground equipment, making roaring noises, and felt something in his chest go warm. When Lily got tired, they sat on a bench and Lucas produced juice boxes and graham crackers from his bag. Lily sat between them, swinging her legs and chattering about school, about her friend Emma's new puppy, about how she'd lost another tooth, and the tooth fairy had brought her $2 whole. Victoria listened like Lily was saying something important, asked questions, laughed at the right parts. And Lucas saw his daughter start to relax, start to accept this stranger as someone safe. "You're pretty," Lily announced suddenly, looking at Victoria. Victoria blinked. "Thank you. You're pretty too." "I know. Daddy tells me all the time." Lily took a bite of cracker. "Are you Daddy's girlfriend?" Lucas nearly choked on his juice. Victoria's eyes went wide. Victoria said, looking at Lucas for help. "Lily, that's not," Lucas started, "because Emma's mom has a boyfriend and he comes over for dinner sometimes. Is Victoria going to come over for dinner?" Lucas and Victoria looked at each other. They hadn't planned for this, hadn't prepared an answer. "Would you want me to come over for dinner?" Victoria asked carefully. Lily shrugged. "I guess. If you like spaghetti, that's what we're having tonight." "I love spaghetti." "Then you can come. But you have to help make it. Daddy's rule is everyone helps." Victoria looked at Lucas. He saw the question in her eyes. "Is this really happening?" He nodded. "Victoria is welcome to stay for dinner, if she wants." "I want," Victoria said quietly. Dinner was chaos. Lily insisted on helping cook, which meant sauce splattered everywhere and noodles ended up on the floor, and the whole process took twice as long as it should have. But Victoria jumped in without hesitation, chopping vegetables and stirring sauce, and listening to Lily's running commentary on everything from dinosaurs to her teacher's weird laugh. They ate at the kitchen table, and Lily talked non-stop, and Lucas watched Victoria slowly loosen up. Saw her smile more easily, laugh more freely, ask Lily questions about her drawings taped to the fridge and her collection of rocks in a jar on the counter. After dinner, Lily wanted to show Victoria her room. Lucas followed them down the hall and leaned against the door frame while Lily gave a full tour. Her bed with the butterfly comforter, her bookshelf organized by color, her stuffed animals lined up with military precision. "This is Mr. Hoppy," Lily said, holding up her rabbit. "He's been with me since I was a baby." "He looks very important," Victoria said seriously. "He is. He protects me from bad dreams." Lily hugged the rabbit. "Do you have bad dreams?" Victoria sat on the edge of Lily's bed. "Sometimes." "What do you do?" "I usually just lie there and wait for them to go away." Lily looked appalled. "That's terrible. You need a Mr. Hoppy." "I don't know if they make them in grown-up sizes." "You don't need a big one. The magic works even if they're small." Lily climbed into her lap, unselfconscious in the way only kids can be. "Daddy says the magic is really just love, that when someone gives you something because they care about you, it has special powers." Victoria's eyes met Lucas's over Lily's head. "Your daddy's very smart." "I know. He knows everything." Lily yawned. "Are you going to be here for breakfast?" Victoria looked at Lucas again. "Not tomorrow, sweetheart," Lucas said, "but maybe another time." "Okay." Lily yawned again. "I like her, Daddy." "Yeah, baby. Me too." After they got Lily into pajamas and read her a story and tucked her in, Lucas and Victoria retreated to the living room. Victoria sat on the couch looking shell-shocked. "That was," she started. "A lot?" "Wonderful. Terrifying. I have no idea what I'm doing." Lucas sat beside her. "You were great with her." "I didn't know what to say half the time." "Neither do I. I just make it up as I go." Victoria leaned into him. "She's amazing, Lucas. You've done such a good job with her." "We've had help. Mrs. Cho, my sister, sheer dumb luck." He kissed the top of her head. "But thank you." They sat in the quiet, and Lucas thought about the future, about more dinners like this, about Victoria becoming a fixture in Lily's life, about building something that looked like a family, even if it didn't fit the traditional mold. It scared him, but not as much as the alternative. Victoria's last day at McKinley was a Friday in late February. There was a small gathering in the main conference room, cake, speeches, the usual corporate theater. Lucas didn't go. It would have raised too many questions, but he watched from his desk as people filtered in and out, heard the applause, saw Victoria emerge an hour later looking exhausted and relieved in equal measure. She didn't look his way, didn't acknowledge him, just walked to her empty office, collected the last box, and left. Lucas waited until 6 to text her. "You okay? Ask me tomorrow. Tonight, I'm getting drunk and not thinking about any of it. Want company?" "Yeah, but I need to do this part alone. I'll see you tomorrow?" "Tomorrow." "I'm proud of you. Don't be. I haven't done anything yet except quit. You chose something hard because it mattered. That's worth being proud of." She didn't respond for 20 minutes. Then, "I love you. I love you too. Go get drunk. You've earned it." The next day, Victoria showed up at Lucas's apartment at 10 a.m., looking hungover and fragile. Lily was at Emma's for a play date, so they had the place to themselves. "I'm unemployed," Victoria said, standing in his doorway. "Officially completely unemployed. How does it feel?" Like I cut off a limb. Like I can suddenly breathe. Like I have no idea who I am." She stepped inside. "Is it too early to have an existential crisis?" "Never too early." Lucas pulled her into a hug. "You're going to be okay." "You keep saying that." "Because it's true." She buried her face in his shoulder. "I'm so scared, Lucas." "I know, but you're not doing this alone." They spent the day on his couch, Victoria processing her feelings out loud while Lucas listened. She'd cycle through relief and panic and excitement and terror, sometimes all in the span of 5 minutes. By evening, she was exhausted and Lucas was emotionally wrung out, but something had shifted. The decision was made. The leap was taken. There was no going back. "What do I do now?" Victoria asked. "Whatever you want. That's the whole point." "I have literally no idea what I want." "Then we figure it out together." The next few weeks were an adjustment. Victoria spent most of her time at Lucas's apartment. She'd never officially moved in, but her toothbrush was in the bathroom, and her clothes were in his closet, and she had her own key. They were living together in everything but name. Lily adjusted better than Lucas expected. She started calling Victoria by name instead of Daddy's friend, asked her opinion on important matters like what to wear to school, included her in drawings of their family. Once, she casually mentioned to Lucas that she hoped Victoria stayed forever. "Why's that, sweetheart?" he'd asked. "Because she makes you smile. The real kind." Out of the mouths of children. But it wasn't all smooth. Victoria struggled with not working. She'd send out resumes, schedule interviews, then cancel them at the last minute. She'd start projects, organizing Lucas's kitchen, planning elaborate meals, researching volunteer opportunities, and abandon them halfway through. She was restless and lost, and Lucas recognized that feeling too well. One night in late March, he found her crying in the bathroom. "Hey," he said softly, sitting on the edge of the tub. "Talk to me." "I don't know who I am without the job," she said. "For 20 years I was Victoria Hale, attorney at law. That was my whole identity. And now I'm just, what? Your girlfriend, unemployed woman in her 40s? You're more than that. Am I? Because I don't feel like it." She wiped her eyes. "I thought quitting would fix everything. That I'd suddenly figure out what I wanted and be happy. But I just feel empty." Lucas pulled her close. "You're grieving. You lost something that mattered to you. That's allowed." "It doesn't feel allowed. It feels pathetic." "It's not. It's human." He tilted her face up. "But Victoria, you can't spend the rest of your life running from one thing to another trying to feel okay. You have to actually feel the hard stuff." "I hate the hard stuff." "I know, but you're not doing it alone." She leaned into him and they sat on the bathroom floor until Lucas's legs went numb and Victoria's breathing evened out. The breakthrough came in April. Victoria found a part-time consulting position with a nonprofit that did legal advocacy for domestic violence survivors. It was nothing like her corporate work. The pay was a fraction of what she'd made. The cases were emotionally draining. The office was cramped and underfunded. But she came home energized in a way Lucas had never seen. "I helped a woman get a restraining order today," she said one evening, sitting at his kitchen table while Lily did homework. "She'd been trying for months and kept getting denied. I walked her through it, helped her file the paperwork correctly, and the judge approved it. That's amazing." She cried. Just sat there in the courthouse hallway and cried because she finally felt safe. Victoria's eyes were bright. "I've won multi-million-dollar cases, Lucas, closed deals that made the firm hundreds of thousands, but I've never felt like I actually helped someone until today." Lucas reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "You found it." "Found what?" "What you're supposed to be doing." She smiled, and it was the first real smile he'd seen in weeks. "Maybe I did." By May, they'd settled into a rhythm. Victoria worked 3 days a week at the nonprofit and spent the rest of her time with Lucas and Lily. She learned to braid hair and make boxed mac and cheese and all the small rituals of parenting. She wasn't perfect at it. She still got frustrated when Lily was being difficult, still didn't always know the right thing to say, but she tried. And Lily loved her for it. One Saturday afternoon, they took Lily to the zoo. Victoria had never been, which Lily found incomprehensible. "You've never seen a real elephant?" Lily asked, scandalized. "Not in person." "We have to fix that immediately. Daddy, we're going to the elephants first." They spent 4 hours wandering exhibits, Lily dragging them from animal to animal with infectious enthusiasm. Victoria bought overpriced cotton candy and admitted it was the best thing she'd ever tasted. Lucas took a photo of her and Lily in front of the penguin exhibit, both of them laughing, and thought about how much had changed in a year. On the way home, Lily fell asleep in the back seat. Lucas glanced at Victoria in the passenger seat. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah, better than okay." She looked back at Lily. "I never thought I'd have this. A family, people who wanted me around." We more than want you around, Victoria. We love you. I love you too, both of you. She turned to look at him. Thank you. For what? For not giving up on me when it would have been easier. Lucas reached over and took her hand. Never crossed my mind. That night, after they put Lily to bed, Victoria pulled Lucas aside. I've been thinking, she said, about moving in, officially, if that's something you want. Lucas's heart jumped. You sure? I'm here most nights anyway. My lease is up next month, and I don't want to keep living in two places when all I want is to be here with you. She paused. With both of you. Then move in. Stay. Make this your home. She kissed him, and it tasted like promise. The official move happened over Memorial Day weekend. Megan flew in from Oregon to help, and to finally meet the woman Lucas had been telling her about for months. She took one look at Victoria organizing boxes and said, Okay, I like her. You've known her for 30 seconds, Lucas said. I have excellent instincts. Plus, anyone who voluntarily organizes your disaster of a kitchen deserves a medal. Victoria and Megan got along instantly, bonding over stories of Lucas's questionable life choices and a shared appreciation for dry wine. Watching them laugh together in his kitchen while Lily colored at the table, Lucas felt something settle in his chest. This was it. This was the life he'd been stumbling toward. That night, after everyone was asleep, Lucas found Victoria standing in the hallway, looking at the photos on the wall. He'd put up new ones recently, her and Lily at the zoo, the three of them at the park, a candid shot Megan had taken of Victoria teaching Lily to cook. You put us up, Victoria said quietly. Of course I did. You're part of this family. She turned to him, and her eyes were wet. I never thought I'd get this. A second chance. A real one. Neither did I. He pulled her close. But here we are. Here we are. By summer, they'd figured out their routine. Victoria's nonprofit work had expanded. She was now managing a small team and helping to secure grant funding. Lucas had gotten a promotion at work, enough to ease some of the financial pressure. And Lily was thriving, her teacher reporting that she was more engaged and confident than she'd been all year. They had family dinners every night, went to the park on Sundays, started a tradition of movie night on Fridays where Lily got to pick, and they all piled on the couch with popcorn. It was ordinary and messy and exactly what both Lucas and Victoria had been missing. In July, Jennifer reached out. She wanted to see Lily more regularly, maybe work out a better custody arrangement. Lucas talked to Victoria about it first. What do you think? He asked. I think it's complicated, but if she's genuinely trying to be more present in Lily's life, that's good for Lily. Victoria paused. How do you feel about it? I don't know. Part of me is angry that she gets to just show up now after all this time, but Lily deserves to have a relationship with her mom if that's what she wants. Then you talk to Lily, see what she wants, and go from there. He did. Lily thought about it very seriously, then said she'd like to see her mom more, but that Lucas and Victoria were her real home. Mommy's nice, Lily explained, but she doesn't feel like home. You guys do. Lucas worked out a new arrangement with Jennifer. Every other weekend plus one weeknight dinner. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than the bare minimum Jennifer had been doing. The first time Jennifer came to pick up Lily, she met Victoria. The encounter was painfully awkward. Two women who'd loved the same man at different times, navigating the strange territory of shared connection through a child. You're Lucas's girlfriend, Jennifer said. It wasn't a question. I am. Victoria Hale. Jennifer Reed. Well, Bennett now. I took back my maiden name. She glanced at Lucas. You look happy. I am. Good. You deserve that. She looked at Victoria. Take care of them. They're worth it. I know, Victoria said simply. After Jennifer left with Lily, Victoria turned to Lucas. That was weird, she said. Incredibly weird. But okay? Yeah. Okay. They went inside, and Lucas thought about the strange paths life takes, how his marriage ending had led to breakdown, had led to Victoria locking her office door, had led to this, a life he actually wanted instead of one he was just surviving. In August, they took a vacation. Just the three of them, a cabin by a lake 2 states away. They spent a week swimming and hiking and doing absolutely nothing of consequence. Lily caught her first fish and made Victoria hold it while she squealed. Victoria fell off a paddleboard and came up laughing. Lucas watched them both and felt grateful in a way that made his throat tight. One night, after Lily was asleep, he and Victoria sat on the cabin's porch watching the stars. "I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop," Victoria admitted, "for something to go wrong." "Maybe nothing will." "You really believe that?" "I believe we'll handle it if it does." He looked at her. "We've handled everything else." "Fair point." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I'm happy, Lucas. Actually, genuinely happy. I didn't think I was capable of this." "Capable of what?" "Letting someone in. Being part of something bigger than myself. Caring about a 6-year-old's opinion on what shoes I should wear." She laughed softly. "All of it." "You're good at it. I'm learning. We're learning together." Lucas kissed her temple. "That's all we can do." They sat in the dark, listening to the lake and the crickets and the sound of their own breathing, and it was enough, more than enough. When they got back from vacation, Lucas's sister called with news. She was getting married in October and wanted Lily to be a flower girl. And she wanted to meet Victoria properly, not just the quick introduction over Memorial Day. "She's important to you," Megan said. "That means she's important to me." Victoria flew to Oregon with Lucas and Lily for the wedding. She met Lucas's entire extended family, aunts and uncles and cousins, and his parents, who he'd been carefully not mentioning because explaining Victoria was complicated. But his mother took one look at them together and pulled Lucas aside. "She's good for you," she said. "I can see it." "Yeah, Mom, she is. Don't screw it up. Doing my best." At the wedding, Lily was the most adorable flower girl in history, taking her job incredibly seriously and scattering petals with grave precision. Victoria cried during the vows, which surprised Lucas until he realized she'd never seen a wedding that actually worked, one where 2 people chose each other and meant it. During the reception, they danced. Lily between them first, then just the 2 of them while Lily ate cake with other kids. "I could do this," Victoria said, swaying with Lucas. "Dance?" "Get married, eventually, if you wanted." Lucas's heart stopped. "Is that a proposal?" "No, just me saying I'm not afraid of the idea anymore." She smiled. "I used to think marriage was a trap, but maybe I just hadn't found the right person." "And now?" "Now I think maybe I have." Lucas pulled her closer. "I think maybe you have too." They didn't get engaged that night. It wasn't the right time, too much happening, too many people around. But the seed was planted, and they both felt it growing. By October, life had settled into something that felt sustainable. Victoria's work was fulfilling, Lucas's career was stable, and Lily was flourishing. They'd had their fights, about money, about parenting styles, about Victoria's tendency to overwork, and Lucas's habit of avoiding conflict. But they'd worked through them, learned to communicate instead of shutting down, chose each other even when it was hard. One Saturday morning, Lucas woke up to find Victoria already awake, watching him. "That's creepy," he mumbled. "Sorry, I was just thinking." "About?" "About how a year ago I was miserable and alone and convinced that was all I deserved. And now I wake up next to you in a home that feels like mine, with a kid down the hall who asked me yesterday if we could make cookies together." She touched his face. "My whole life changed because you were falling apart in an office, and I couldn't watch it happen. Best intervention I ever received. I wasn't trying to save you, I was trying to save myself." She smiled. "Turns out we saved each other." Lucas pulled her close. "Good thing we're both stubborn." The stubbornest. They lay there until Lily came barreling in demanding pancakes, and the day started in its normal chaos. But Lucas carried Victoria's words with him. They'd saved each other, not in some grand, dramatic way, but in the small dailiness of choosing to show up, choosing to try, choosing love even when it was messy and complicated and required sacrifice. In November, Victoria officially proposed. Not with a ring, she said that felt too traditional, and she'd never been traditional anyway, but with a question asked over leftover Chinese food while Lily was at a sleepover. "Marry me," she said. "Not today, not next month, but someday when we're ready. Marry me and let's make this official." Lucas set down his chopsticks. "That's not much of a proposal." "I'm nervous. I've never done this before." "Neither have I. Well, technically I have, but—" "Lucas?" She took his hand. "I want to marry you. I want to be Lily's stepmother if she'll have me. I want to build a life that's messy and imperfect and real. What do you say?" I say yes. Obviously yes. They told Lily the next morning. She processed it for approximately 3 seconds before declaring that she got to help pick the cake and also she needed a fancy dress. "We're not getting married tomorrow, sweetheart," Lucas said. "I know, but I need time to prepare. This is important, Daddy." Victoria laughed. "She's not wrong." They set a date for the following summer. Nothing big, just family and close friends and a park ceremony followed by dinner. Simple, meaningful, theirs. The months leading up to the wedding were chaotic in the best way. Lily took her role as flower girl incredibly seriously, practicing walking slowly and not throwing all the petals at once. Victoria's mother flew in from Boston and surprised everyone by being genuinely happy for them. Lucas's parents helped with planning, and Megan served as an enthusiastic, if slightly bossy, wedding coordinator. But underneath the chaos was a quiet certainty. This was right. They were right. Two people who'd been broken in different ways, finding each other and building something whole. The wedding day was perfect in its imperfection. It rained, so they moved the ceremony inside to a community center that smelled faintly of old coffee. Victoria's heel broke on the way to the altar, and she walked the rest barefoot. Lily got nervous halfway down the aisle and ran straight to Lucas instead of walking slowly. The caterer forgot the vegetarian option, and someone's aunt complained loudly about it. But when Lucas and Victoria stood facing each other and said their vows they'd written themselves about choosing each other every day, about building a family from scratch, about being brave enough to try, none of the imperfections mattered. "I didn't know I could have this," Victoria said, tears streaming down her face. "Didn't know I was allowed to want it. Thank you for showing me I was wrong. I thought I was broken," Lucas said. "Thought the best version of myself was already used up. You proved that wrong every single day." They kissed, and Lily cheered louder than anyone, and it was done. They were married, a family, official in every way that mattered. At the reception, Lucas danced with Lily first. "You happy, Daddy?" she asked, standing on his feet. "Yeah, baby, really happy." "Me too. I always wanted a bigger family." "Well, now you've got one." Then he danced with Victoria, and she said, "We did it. We did. No going back now." "Wouldn't want to." She rested her head on his shoulder, and Lucas looked around the room, at their friends and family, at Lily spinning in circles with Megan, at his parents laughing with Victoria's mother. He thought about the man he'd been a year and a half ago, sitting at his desk with divorce papers and a hollow feeling where hope used to live. He'd been drowning then. Lost. Convinced he'd already failed at everything that mattered. But then Victoria had locked her office door and refused to let him keep destroying himself. She'd pushed him toward therapy and time off and actual healing. She'd shown him that being broken wasn't the same as being finished. And somewhere in that process, they'd found each other. Not because either of them was fixed, but because they were both willing to try. Life wasn't perfect now. They still fought about stupid things. Still had days when they were tired and short-tempered and just trying to survive. Victoria still worked too much sometimes. Lucas still struggled with anxiety. Lily still had moments of missing her mom or acting out or just being a normal kid with normal problems. But they faced it together, showed up for each other, chose love over fear every single day. And that, Lucas thought, was more than he'd ever hoped for, more than he'd thought he deserved. The DJ played an old song, something slow and sweet. Victoria pulled him closer. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "How we got here. How much had to go wrong for things to go right. You think it was worth it?" Lucas looked at his wife. He'd never get tired of that. And then at Lily, who was now trying to teach his dad some complicated dance move. "Every single second," he said. They danced until the music stopped, and then they danced some more. Because that's what you do when you find something real. You hold on, you show up, you keep choosing each other even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Later, when the guests had left and Lily had fallen asleep in the car on the way home, Lucas and Victoria stood in their bedroom, the one they shared now, the one that had slowly filled with both their things until you couldn't tell where one person ended and the other began. "Mrs. Hale," Lucas said, testing the name. "Technically, I'm keeping my name, but I like hearing you say it anyway." "Mrs. Reed?" "Better." They got ready for bed, and it was so normal, so domestic, so perfectly ordinary that Lucas had to stop and just feel grateful for it. for toothbrushes in the same holder and arguments about who forgot to buy milk, and Lily's drawing on the fridge that showed all three of them holding hands. They climbed into bed, and Victoria curled against him like she always did. "Hey, Lucas," she said sleepily. "Yeah? Thank you for not giving up. On yourself. On me. On us. Thank you for locking your office door," said. She laughed softly. "Best professional violation I ever committed." They fell asleep tangled together, and in the morning they'd wake up and make pancakes with Lily and start their first full day as a married family. There would be burnt edges and too much syrup and probably a fight about something small and forgettable. And it would be perfect. Not because it was easy or smooth or looked like anyone's idea of what a family should be, but because it was theirs. Built from broken pieces and second chances, and two people brave enough to say yes when it would have been easier to say no. That's the thing about love, Lucas had learned. It doesn't fix you, doesn't erase the scars or rewrite the past or make hard things suddenly easy. It just makes you willing to try, to show up, to believe that maybe, just maybe, you're allowed to be happy. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes it's everything.